Sea levels. Sea levels.
Glaciers are melting.
Sea levels are rising almost everywhere on Earth. Beaches are shrinking and coastlines are prepping for trouble, but not in Greenland. Ironically, the same giant ice sheet that can flood the planet could also make parts of Greenland rise out of the ocean by the end of this century. What kind of physics glitch is this? The answer starts with the weight of ice. Greenland is buried under a ridiculous amount of ice. It covers about 80% of the island and spreads across roughly 660,000 square miles, about 3 times the size of Texas. In some places, it's more than a mile thick. At its deepest, it's close to 2 miles. If all of it melted, global sea levels would jump by about 23 feet. Coastal cities like Miami Beach would stop looking like vacation spots and start looking like tourist attractions for divers. And underneath all that ice is actually land. Greenland is not a floating iceberg. It's a real island with mountains, valleys, and rivers. For ages, all that ice has been pressing down on Earth's crust like a giant thumb pushing into soft ground. The crust isn't completely stiff. It sits on top of deeper rock that can slowly change shape over time. The enormous weight of the ice has depressed parts of Greenland's crust, and some bedrock beneath the ice now lies below sea level. Basically, the weight of the ice has made the island sag a bit. But now the island is losing ice relatively fast. Every year, hundreds of billions of tons end up in the ocean. When you lift something heavy off the ground, the Earth starts to push back up to where it was before. Greenland works in a similar way. As the ice melts away, the land underneath starts to bounce back up like a spring that's been squished. Everything with mass has gravity. Planets have it, moons have it, skyscrapers and mountains have it. Your house has it, your coffee mug too, even you and me. But it's so small it's basically impossible to measure. However, Greenland's gravity, even though small, acts like a magnet for the nearby ocean. It pulls the water right toward its shores. That nudge is tiny, but still makes a difference. So when Greenland starts to lose its mass, the gravitational grip will weaken. This makes the water slosh away into the open ocean. Scientists already theorized Greenland would bounce back as it shed ice. But new research shows that some of the rebound might happen faster. The secret could be buried deep underground. Rocks way down could be helping to lift the land, meaning this isn't a slow change that's going to happen ages from now. Some coastlines might keep rising throughout this century, with the biggest shifts likely happening by 2100. In some parts of Greenland, scientists think the land could actually go up by a few feet over the next few generations, which is pretty significant when you consider how things move in geological terms. One reason southeast Greenland stands out is its weird geological history. Millions of years ago, this part of the island passed over the Iceland plume, a deep upswelling of superheated rock. That ancient heat may have left the upper mantle weaker than usual, which could explain why uplift there is happening faster than scientists expected. Underneath all that ice, Greenland has some surprising secrets. Scientists have discovered a huge canyon buried beneath the ice sheet that's 460 miles long, way longer than the Grand Canyon. This ravine is hidden in complete darkness below the frozen surface, but subglacial rivers are still going through it, carrying meltwater out to the Arctic Ocean. Researchers have even pulled up drill cores that show ancient soil and plant remains. It turns out that millions of years ago, this frozen island was actually green and covered in vegetation. The melting ice is even exposing a top-secret ghost town. Back in the 60s, the military built a hidden base powered by a nuclear reactor straight into the ice sheet. The project was called Project Iceworm, which aimed to test whether nuclear missiles could be hidden under the ice. Scientists assumed the ice was stable, but the moving ice quickly crushed and warped the tunnels, forcing them to shut down. They thought it would stay safely buried forever, but now, thanks to the shrinking glacier, those abandoned tunnels and heavy machinery are slowly coming right back up to the surface. The melting ice triggers another cool chain reaction. Moving billions of tons of water off the island shifts the weight across the entire globe. But most of that mass heads towards the equator. When Earth gets heavier around the middle, its rotation slows down. It works kinda like a spinning ice skater stretching their arms out. The entire planet actually takes longer to complete a full spin. Yes, the melting ice is actually making a day longer. The actual shape of the planet changes along with it. Earth is already slightly lumpy rather than a perfect sphere. The sheer mass of the Greenland ice sheet helps warp the crust. As the ice melts and the ground bounces back, the physical geometry of the globe shifts. So not only does it make the day longer, it can actually bend the world out of shape, literally. Back on the surface, the consequences get very local very fast. Greenland's towns are mostly built along the coast, and many depend on fishing. But when the land rises, the water near the shore gets shallower, harbors can turn muddy, ships can get stuck, and towns may need to dredge channels just to keep supplies moving. The coastline also starts changing shape. New rocks and small islands can appear, and routes that used to be safe can suddenly become risky. And the ice sheet itself is anything but quiet. Huge outlet glaciers like Helheim keep pushing toward the ocean, cracking and grinding as they go. When giant slabs break off and crash into the sea, the impact can be strong enough to trigger glacial earthquakes. Those shockwaves travel through the planet, and seismographs thousands of miles away can pick them up. At the same time, meltwater can slip underneath the ice and make the whole glacier slide faster, like a heavy object suddenly hitting a wet floor. Once meltwater starts moving through the cracks in the ice, it can weaken the glacier from above and below at the same time. The shifting landscape can trigger even bigger chaos. In 2023, part of the mountain in East Greenland collapsed into a narrow fjord and launched a wave about 650 feet tall near the impact. The walls of the fjord trapped the water, turning the whole place into a giant sloshing basin. The water sloshed back and forth so violently that the entire planet vibrated for 9 straight days. Another interesting thing is that the snow on top is messing things up for the ice underneath. When it gets warmer, tiny algae start blooming like crazy and turn the snow pink. Locals call it watermelon snow. It might sound cute, but it's a big problem. Bright white snow reflects sunlight really well, but when it turns pink, it starts soaking up heat like a dark shirt on a hot day, which makes it melt way faster. The ice also gets covered with tiny particles like dust, soot, and microbes. Because they are darker than clean ice, they absorb more sunlight and melt little pits into the surface. Millions of these tiny pits can turn the solid surface into something like frozen Swiss cheese. Scientists call them cryoconite holes. They form when dust, soot, microbes, and organic material clump into dark grains that absorb sunlight, melting narrow little shafts that can even host tiny microbial ecosystems inside the ice. And that's what makes Greenland so fascinating. At the start, this looks like a physics glitch. An island losing ice should mean more water and higher seas. But Greenland doesn't play by one simple rule. As the ice shrinks, the land rises, the nearby ocean shifts, and deep rock starts responding too. What looked like a contradiction is really a whole chain reaction hiding inside one frozen island.
That's it for today. So hey, if you pacified your curiosity, then give the video a like and share it with your friends. Or if you want more, just click on these videos and stay on the bright side.